Hey guys, hope everyone is having a good week. It's been an eventful week in the news. Lots going on in the last month, this past week particularly. Lot going on. And what I'd like to focus up on today, the Pentagon, and at the direction of President Trump, a number of files were released. 162 files were declassified this previous week concerning unidentified anomalous phenomena, previously known as UFOs. So now that's been kind of changed, but Trump has directed these various agencies to release these files. Now, some of the video footage and some of these files, I guess, were somewhat known before. A lot of it's brand new.
Hmm.
And apparently, this is going to be an ongoing thing. I don't know how much they have, but I guess quite a lot that they are going to begin to gradually release in various batches as they go. And so this is. Go ahead. I want to hear what you have to say as we open up here.
Well, I mean, it's just, there's a lot of things going through my head where this is concerned. Like, you all have known all of this all this time. And I mean, I get that you don't want to alarm the public, but it just goes to show that a different leader can get in there with a different value system. Everybody starts hammering on visibility and transparency, and I think that's good, but eh, why aren't you doing this with Epstein files in the same way?
Right.
But
What a lot of
it's
people are bringing up. Yeah. Of
and that's
course, they
not the
have released a lot.
they have that's not the subject, and
Mm,
I understand
yeah.
that. But if it's true,
What
then
if what's true?
well, all of the alien stuff, anything that
Mhm.
they're releasing, Epstein or the aliens, like America, the Americans, and the world. They may not be ready to face it, but if we've got something looming on the horizon of some kind of first contact or whatever, like whatever would happen, no matter what your belief system about what's happening, if something's coming to a head and we're going to be forced to deal with this, having a heads up to me is better.
Well, even though this stuff has been released, I don't think it's brought any clarity to the situation. Now, apparently, we'll find out, and I don't have any personal knowledge of it myself, but going on some hearsay evidence, there appears to be some quote, "oh crap" moments coming with what is going to be released. I don't know what that is. There's been a lot of speculation about that, but you kind of hinted at it earlier. I think it's important as we get into this discussion to to do it through somewhat of a historical filter. Americans and human beings in general, I think, have a very short attention span and very short
Memory.
memories.
Mm.
And so now, what's weird about it is the shift in societal thinking because up until the last very recent years, the United States government has been not just hush on these topics, but they have dismissed it and they have basically painted anyone um, who was researching or thought
Mm-hmm.
about these kinds of subject matters like the UFO phenomenon or
Sasquatch.
phenomena
Yeah.
as tinfoil
Mm-hmm.
wearing conspiracy nut jobs
But they said that about the vaxxers
and
too.
lots of other
Whatever.
things. Yeah.
Yeah. So we can't trust them.
So yeah, I mean the historically they have had a bunch of information now we're finding out, and apparently a lot of these agencies, CIA, maybe NASA, and
Mm-hmm.
others, are not as eager to release this information as President Trump is. Now, this past week, in a short clip that I saw, he basically said, "Hey, I think we need to get this stuff out there," and I think he said he wanted the American people to make up their own mind and quote have fun with it or something to that effect.
Well, and you have to ask the question, why the push now? Are you anticipating or do you know something is coming? Like, are you trying to get ahead of it where everyone, do you have if people are going to panic, is it better for them to panic when nothing is happening, or better for them to panic when something looms over all the cities of the
Mm-hmm.
world? I mean, like I can understand the practical nature,
Mm-hmm.
his practical nature of saying, we got if we think that a confrontation is imminent, we need to
Yeah,
make
and we
the
don't have
people
any
know.
knowledge of such a thing.
No, I'm just saying that if I were president
Mm-hmm.
in his position and I thought that if
Mm-hmm.
some kind of confrontation with whatever this is imminent, I would want the people more armed than less, because I think the panic is greater when you've got something appearing in the sky
Mm-hmm.
than if you don't.
Right. Well, and that's what we begin to see, that this stuff has been treated seriously by various government agencies for a long, long time,
Mm-hmm.
and the government, not like I said, hasn't just stonewalled and been unwilling to release the information that they've had, but they have been adversarial, I think you could say, to anybody who tried to shine light or question any of this stuff in the past too.
And I'm not sure they know what they're dealing with. I
I'm not
think
sure that they do either.
a lot of them probably do believe it's
Mhm,
extraterrestrial life from other
mhm,
planets, and I think some of them don't know what to
mhm,
believe. And when you don't know what's what, you would be reluctant. I get it, to just flood,
mhm.
because there's kind of two sides to this. I understand Trump's motivation to put it out there and let people acclimate, but I also understand that when you're dealing with people that will take something and just run crazy with it,
Yeah,
you also don't
which they
want that
always
to happen,
do.
which you can't control.
Yeah, which is going to happen. It does,
It does
and as
anyway.
you said, a lot of people see this whole situation as just a distraction, a red herring, a psyop operation to distract from other things, Epstein files, etc. And I don't know. I mean, people say that make those kind of claims. Again, they don't have proof, and usually it's just pure speculation. So we're going to try to keep this today. I don't really think I've ever really had an agenda on this stuff or a lot of things, and a lot of these videos that we make, we try to just best we can present information and different thoughts and questions that we've thought of and present it to you, and again, so you can take that information and do with it what you think best and make your own assessments and decisions about the information. But I think that this is going to be an important thing coming up. Now, again, just to kind of in recent history set this in a little bit of a context here, former President Obama made some comment in the last 2 or 3 years about believing in the existence of aliens. And then, approximately 6 months ago, I think, Peter Ducey with Fox News made some.
Is
Did I
that
get
his name?
Ducey? Sorry, Peter. He's just kind of screwed all the way around with his name.
Stop!
But um, anyway,
I didn't know. I
I,
just had to
yeah,
ask. I'm
sorry
sorry.
about that. Yeah, I that wasn't intentional. Uh,
Oh God,
Ducey.
Ducci.
Okay, moving on. So he asked President Trump a question about releasing this stuff, and Trump's like, yeah, maybe we might do that, and so he decided he would do it. And I would one of the things also that came out this week, and again,
Oh,
here's something that has not been confirmed yet. So I'll just present it. What we have here now. This has been cited in Charisma Magazine, Baptist News Global, International Business Times, UK, and other sources. So as to the veracity of all this, I don't know. So I'll present you what these outlets have reported. Some evangelical pastors like Perry Stone and Alan Didio, be careful with that one too, have claimed they were briefed by the government about upcoming UAP disclosures. So that's these um, UFOs essentially, suggesting these briefings might challenge traditional Christian beliefs.
you think?
Okay, so if that's true, there are if it's true and it has been reported by a number of outlets, and so assuming that it is for the time being, that these guys, prominent evangelical pastors and teachers, have been briefed and informed, hey, you might need to talk to your followers and sort of prepare them for information that's going to be released that could disrupt the theological paradigms of a number of evangelical Christians.
Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, man.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, yeah, like it needs to be talked about, like what you're saying, whatever it ends up being, whatever ends up being true, whatever ends up not being true. They have footage, apparently, of different things they've experienced. And so whatever you believe about it, what you can't really say, I mean, they got a lot of video and stuff going back probably a long, long time. And I doubt, even if certain things are faked or AI makes things to complicate the issue, I doubt all of it, 100% of it is faked.
Right.
Because it's been classified. So yeah, you're gonna have to deal with it one way or the other.
Particularly, a lot of this stuff goes back to around 1947 with the Roswell incident and such. But even prior to that, and I don't want to make this video about going through all of the history. I mean, although might be good to point out of in ancient art of these some strange things that programs like Ancient Aliens and other things show, and in even in the Renaissance, you got these flying objects and different things like that, and reports of these things down through the ages. Now, in modern times, again, up until recently, there was a proclivity by the government and by a lot of people to paint anyone who looked into these things as crazy nut job conspiracy theorist and stuff like that, and discredited. However, many of the people who claim to have seen things are not Joe Blow living out on a farm in Iowa or something.
Astronauts.
Astronauts and scientists and very people in government, credible people, as we would usually define that. So if you want to go further into that, I would suggest there's plenty of resources to look into that. I don't want to go there today. I just wanted to look at what's going on, and I'd like to return back to the paradigm maybe toward the end of the as we're closing up, and talk about, so what do we do with this information if indeed that is the case with these evangelical pastors being briefed of, hey, what's coming may disrupt your followers.
And it doesn't have to.
No, and that's what I would like to talk about later.
Well, but it likely will, and that tension point between being disrupted and not being disrupted is kind of what we're speaking into here.
Right. So I would like to kind of go in and question these things. I'm not going to go in. There's a lot in my notes here about the past, about agencies in the United States that have investigated UFOs in the past, with projects like Project Sign, Project Grudge, Project Blue Book, etc.
SETI.
I don't know about
Search
that.
for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Okay.
I think it's mentioned in the movie Contact. SETI.
Okay, yeah, I think I have heard of that. What I'd like to, often on this channel, we like to question things and just drag things out and question things. And so I got into a conversation with a guy this past week about, it started with this talking about UFOs, aliens and such, and then evolved into a discussion about Bigfoot and other things. And I don't want to get into Bigfoot here, and I don't really have an opinion one way or another on that. It's never really particularly interested me. But he said his position was, I don't want to misquote him, but if I understand his position, it was, it doesn't exist because if it did exist, we would already have more concrete evidence of its existence.
Well, you could say that about God.
Yeah, well, and people could say that about aliens or in UFOs, and say, well, we would have a lot more evidence if they really existed. We would have video footage and photographs, or who knows, a lot more maybe physical evidence than what we have if it really existed. Now, I don't have the stats right here in front of me, and this isn't, again, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on this, but I believe in the past I had remembered some statistics where like 15% of the population believes that they have seen a UFO in their lifetime, which is a pretty sizable number. And you take, what are we at over here in the United States now? I don't know, 360 million plus. And so you take 15% of that, that's a lot of people.
Well, and just seeing something unidentified in the sky.
Right.
I have 2 or 3 times in my life. I mean, it could be human stuff, but
Yeah.
I mean, one time it was just really kind of crazy, just zooming around being weird when I was a teenager. So, I mean, you take, I'm just an average person. If you polled 100 people, you probably get a lot of.
Sure, yeah. Well, and even maybe more startling is the people that at least believe that they've been abducted,
Yeah,
which
there's a
I think
lot.
it's like 1 to 3%, but again, which sounds small until you're talking about millions of
Right.
people. We're talking about a lot of people.
And worldwide, 8 billion people, that percentage.
Doesn't mean that it's happening, but you've got a lot of people that believe, and again, a lot of those people appear to be credible. And again, it's the the profile of those people. Many of them are professionals, educated,
Right.
stable people.
They're not just,
it's not just,
passed
people,
out drunk people,
right,
that
sniffing gasoline or on crack or whatever. I mean, it's people that
right.
lived a very stable life, and
have a long history of being just straight laced and pretty
so
factual.
again, just throwing it out there, that doesn't mean that none of this proves anything, but this is so my conversation with the guy this week, and he's like, well, if the stuff like Bigfoot, for instance, really did exist, then we would already know it. To give you some sense of perspective here, check this out. On average, more than 16,000 new species of animals are discovered every year. 16,000, over 16,000 new species of animals are discovered every year that we didn't know existed.
According to what?
I have to check my sources in a minute, but University of Arizona, Science Daily, World Atlas, just a few sources here. Oh, with over 10,000 of them being animals. Okay, so that leaves about 6,000 of them that we're talking about insects or smaller creatures.
Or people.
No, I ain't got that yet.
Subspecies.
Right.
Warlock and Eloy.
So that's a massive amount. So like, basically 6,000 of them are arthropods and insects, but over 10,000 of them are animals that we didn't even know existed. Every year.
That's crazy.
Over 16,000 new species. Okay.
And we didn't have evidence.
No.
Before. We did. Well, it was probably there, but we didn't see it.
In this conversation, he's like, because I mentioned, I had no idea how many, but I knew there was new species that every year discovered that we didn't know existed. And he's like, well, but we would know if it was something, that would just be tiny things. But if it was anything big, we would know it. Oh, yeah? Well, one of the largest new animal species in the last 100 years was discovered in Saola, found in the Annamite Mountains between Laos and Vietnam in 1992. Adults weigh about 90 to 100 kilograms. We'll get to that in pounds in a second. And was the first large mammal species described in over 50 years. While not as huge as whales or elephants, it was a major discovery for a large terrestrial mammal. Now listen to this. In 2025, that's last year. For those who just arrived in the UFO, a juvenile, so an immature, colossal squid was filmed alive, unknown until last year, and 2026 we're still a giant squid was detected via DNA in deep Australian canyons. Okay, so how big are these things? The colossal squid at full adult size is 7 meters, which amounts to 23 feet. And
Good
500,
grief.
500 kilograms, that's 1,100 pounds. The giant squid is 10 to 13 meters. That's going to equate to 33 to 43 feet. And its weight range from 150 to 275 kilograms, which is 330 to 600 pounds. Both of these are massive and were not known until 2025 and 2026.
You know, and people will say, well, it was in the ocean, so you missed it. Well, that's not the point. The
It's not the
point is
point.
that, yeah, they existed, whether little or big, they existed, and there was evidence there. They left physical evidence because how else did we find them? We found them because of physical evidence. And so, what else could, like you're saying, what else could be there?
Exactly. And there is less known about what is in the oceans than what
Yes,
we know about the surface of the
absolutely.
moon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
We know more about the
Yeah.
surface of the moon right now than the
Well,
many areas of the ocean have yet to be mapped.
Mariana Trench. Is
Mhm.
it Mariana Trench?
And not just in the ocean. Let's see if I have it here. Let's see. Even today, there are remote parts of the deep ocean we haven't fully charted, like parts of the Pacific or the Arctic seabed. And even on land, dense rainforest, deep caves, or isolated mountain ranges still hide unknown species and secrets. So there's still a lot to discover. And I'm not going to go into that. So far all we've talked about is Earth, and so we could compare that to other planets. I mean, we're talking about size here. We could fit just in our solar system. I believe it's 1,300 Earths within Jupiter. It's so much bigger than us, and although there hasn't been any signs of life, as far as I know, detected on Jupiter, obviously it's very unexplored.
Yeah.
And
Right.
so
Well, do we even have the equipment needed to figure that out?
in our solar system, let's talk about our solar system for a second. Right now, the most likely planet to show signs of life, which does, is Mars. And it has evidence of ancient riverbeds and possibly tiny briny flows today. After Mars, Europa, one of Jupiter's moons, and a top candidate because of its hidden ocean beneath, the ice, I'm trying to pronounce this right, Euclides, a moon on Saturn, Earth-like planets. Scientists are indeed finding planets that might be Earth-like, especially using missions like Kepler and TESS, which have identified dozens of planets in habitable zones, meaning they could have liquid water, blah, blah, blah. So they found a number of those. Let's now talk about our solar system. In our solar system, in the Milky Way, scientists estimate that there are somewhere, okay, in the galaxy that we belong to, there are somewhere between 100 billion and 400 billion stars.
100 billion.
So, like, again, our sun is a star. Within our own galaxy, there's estimates between 100 billion and 400 billion stars or suns. Okay. Current astronomy suggests that most stars probably have planets, like our solar system.
Yeah.
And so there's 100 billion or more planetary systems in our galaxy alone. Scientists currently estimate there are somewhere between 200 billion and 2 trillion galaxies in the observable universe.
Good grief.
So these numbers are astronomical
There.
when you get to thinking about. And so I think it's the height of hubris with so much unknown. What little bit we know about just the Earth, much less our solar system, our galaxy, or the known universe, how little we know to plant a flag and say that aliens could not possibly exist for whatever reason.
I agree. I completely agree with that. Because of the unknowns. Well, and there's a lot of assumptions made. Because people will cite the Bible in different ways, but it's like, well, that scripture that you're using with this and so many other things I've heard people defend, it doesn't prove what you're saying, it's how you're interpreting
Right,
it.
right.
I mean, who are we to tell God that he can't create other species and other dimensions, even in our observable dimension? But there's other dimensions. They don't have to be like in our dimension, they can be in other
Well, that's what I
dimensions.
wanted to delve
It,
into
where
here.
where we wouldn't even be able to observe them necessarily.
Right.
Well, I mean, when you kind of, I don't know a lot about this, like I'm not a scientist, obviously, or anything, but when you watch things like Interstellar, and I know it's just a fictional movie, or Star Trek, there's a lot of actual science that goes into serious science fiction stuff. You learn, and listening to scientists, you learn really quickly that with the different dimensions, you know, two-dimensional, three-dimensional, there are things that are not observable to beings in other dimensions, like angels. We might say, for instance, I mean, I'm just saying, they can slip into and out of our vision. And I think people kind of have this idea that it's just magic, or they just decide to, or God just lets them. I mean, whatever's true is true, but they're there nonetheless. We just don't see them until they decide to make themselves visible. And how they do that, the science of that, because there is a science.
Physics, yeah.
Yes, there's a spiritual physics or dimensional physics that governs all that. God made it that way. What if things are existing all around us all the time, and it's not as neatly defined as angel or demon or
Right.
human?
Well, and that's what I'd like to go into now is ask some of those questions.
Mm-hmm.
And because there's so much assumption, I see these
Yes.
memes or
Yes.
videos on YouTube or Facebook, and you have people that know nothing, basically, that dogmatically pontificate and declare this is this with no proof or no evidence whatsoever. And so I'd like to bring up some questions. If aliens exist, and I'm not saying 100%, I think that just looking at what we know, a lot of the evidence that we've already laid out, it seems highly plausible or likely that that would have to be the case to me.
Well, and I don't want to get you off what
Yeah.
you're doing. What if it's not necessarily a matter, if you have a problem thinking, well, why would God make that? Well, first of all, just because you don't know why doesn't mean he didn't.
Mhm.
But he also makes the system of creation able to perpetuate itself.
Okay. Yeah.
So if he puts the code of his word and his will and his ways into creation, and the universe is expanding, then it might not even be a matter as much of God just directly creating all of the different species that could be out there of extraterrestrial life. It could just be that he puts the conditions for life to exist in the universe, and enough order around all of it, enough law, that maybe life forms are arising in what he already created. I
Right.
mean, it
Well,
could
and
be either.
I
I'm
think
just,
that's a very valid point that you bring up because one of the appellations in the scripture is the living God. A lot of his character attributes have to do with life
yeah,
and living.
yeah, pro
So
life.
if under the model that a lot of people have, we would have to believe that a one little particle of dust within the known universe is the only area that he's expressed life and everything else is lifeless. And that doesn't seem consistent with his character or his other works.
Again, it's not a proof.
No.
But you have to start asking some of these questions and extrapolating, if then, if then, if then. If you can take certain attributes that are his
Hmm.
by scripture, that
Yes.
and you can look at what he's done here.
Yeah.
You can look at your body, you can look at the ground and springtime and all these flowers and all these plants. They know when to blossom and when to die. And I'm not saying it's perfect. I mean, there are things, people born with strange conditions, and there are things in nature that seems to be broken. It's not necessarily a perfect system. That's not a reflection of God.
Right.
But if he creates the code for all of that to run and work right, and your body typically has the right temperature, it has, there are just things that happen with your body that are automatic.
Right.
So, I mean, he obviously cares enough to put that much thought and effort into one part of creation.
Yeah. And to dovetail with something you said a moment ago, without getting too philosophical or off on this, because it could be a whole whole video, but I've heard a number of people talk in the past like, well, if I can't see it, I don't believe it, which is really a foolish thing to say because there's so much that exists that our eyes can't pick
Right.
up.
Yep.
You can't, if that's really true, it's cognitive dissonance is what it is. People think that that's how they operate, but it's not, because if that's true, then they don't believe that ultraviolet light or infrared light or these kind of things exist. Because,
Radio waves,
yeah, right now in this room and where you're at,
sound.
there's radio waves, there's cell phone signals, there's microwaves, there's all kinds of things. There's sounds, yeah. I mean, your dog can hear things that you can't. And so our own senses typically are declining the older we get. And if you're merely basing what is true upon your own declining senses that only pick up about 1% of what exists, way less than 1%, most of what exists our senses do not pick up,
And
which is a startling thing to think
it
about.
is. And then, if you work the path right and you deal with God as properly as you know how, as you get older, other senses start to
That's right.
blossom.
And we
But
start
if,
being able to leverage
well,
too.
you can, but if you don't have faith that it's that, like, you're going to have faith. What do you think faith is? I mean, substance and evidence of things hoped for but not seen. So, I
Right.
mean, how can you have faith if you can only, if someone who doesn't believe in God says that, that's more in line, even though it's not true. Like you said, there are things that still, radio waves and all that. But when
Black holes, atoms.
yeah, but when believers
Mhm.
say that,
Yeah.
that's just, to me, how do you even believe in Jesus?
You got to work hard to get that stupid.
Well,
You really do. You got to work at it.
I think it's just a paradigm. It's just a story they've told themselves. It's a way to look through. It's a lens to look through to make better sense of the world, to make it feel more secure under their feet.
Yeah, that's true. Fair enough.
Well, and I understand that, but the problem comes in this whole thing is when you dogmatically, absolutely put the gavel down on something when you don't have all the evidence.
Exactly. Let me try to get through. So let's ask, if aliens exist, if they do, are they friendly? Or are they malevolent? Are they hostile?
Probably both. Human beings are both.
Well, see, these questions, we have people saying, well, I think they're friendly. A guy recently, we're having a conversation, and that's what he said. He's like, well, because if they if they exist, and he thinks they do, then they've been around a while, observed us, and if they must be friendly, or they would have done something to us by now, negatively.
Not necessarily.
I think that, yeah, if we ask that question and we say, and I was going to add again to what you said earlier, according to New Testament, that through faith, basically we're able to understand and see or perceive the invisible or unseen things by that which is visible. The visible things, we're able to leverage to see things we can't see.
They witness to something.
Yeah.
Yes.
And so if we take that same question, rather than ask it about aliens, are aliens malevolent or benevolent? Or what about human beings? If I turn it around and asked you, are human beings good, kind, benevolent, or are they hostile?
Yes.
Yes and yes. Yeah, it totally depends. They are both.
Mm-hmm.
What about animals?
Sure.
Some animals are going to be harmless and are domesticated, or they're not going to hurt you. Other ones will kill you,
well,
deader than a hammer.
Domesticated animals may kill you, and a wild animal may let you live.
Right.
Like, I mean, it's a crapshoot.
So that would also, let me see what my other question here. If they exist, if aliens exist, are there more than one species of aliens? And so, again, this is something that I normally never hear anybody consider, but if they do exist, there may be more than one kind,
Sure.
and there could be good ones and there could be bad ones in a whole spectrum. Who knows?
Sure.
And which probably is going to lead to the next thing. Because a lot of people are going to say, and already have, these news stories happened, the files were released, and you've got people that plant their flag, they slammed the gavel down and said, "It's demons. That's all it is. It's just demons." How do you know? Do you have any proof of that? Um, and we would need to, and we don't have time to get deep into the weeds of it,
I can
but
do a
we've got to
series.
talk about what are demons.
Mm-hmm.
But is it possible it could be both?
Sure.
No, it's just demons.
Well,
You
how
don't
do
have,
you know?
you don't know.
Well, and you're just trying to simplify something down to where, like I said, to where you feel more
Mm.
comfortable with it. And I get that because sometimes we just need to make sense of something to be where we are so we don't just go run screaming down the highway.
Right.
But
If you're
but
wrong and you don't know what in the hell you're talking about and you don't have any evidence, you are deceiving yourself and you're deceiving others and you're spreading misinformation and you're bearing false witness.
well,
If you don't know and you are dogmatically stating these things as absolute
yes.
truth, then you are deceiving other people if it turns out you're wrong. If not every if unknown thing of this nature, if you're wrong, they're not all demons, then you may have some splaining to do.
Well, and if we're all just kind of working through our paradigms of inherited beliefs that sometimes do offer easy or solid feeling explanations of things. But the truth is, if you call yourself a truth seeker, not a theology seeker, not a fact necessarily seeker, but a truth seeker, objective truth, then every single one of us is going to have to subject themselves to some really uncomfortable questions to find a truth that is out there that might not jive with our beliefs. I mean, Abraham was willing to sacrifice his only son Isaac because God told him to. And if the patriarch, you know, out of whom Israel, God's promised people, and the archetype of Israel came, then Yeshua said a servant's not greater than his master, and children aren't necessarily greater than their father. If he was willing to sacrifice Isaac, then surely we can sacrifice some of our sacred cows, or be willing to in the pursuit of just
Mhm.
looking at evidence and say, like you said, could this be demons? And not only just demons, but you've
Yeah,
got fallen angels, you've got demons, you've got all kinds.
exactly.
Well, I
And
mean,
it's,
you've
yeah,
got all kinds of different things
yeah.
that
I'm not saying that, yeah, when a lot of people aren't able to navigate this way, we're used to it because I mean,
we've
this is kind of,
practiced it.
but just because I'm bringing
Mhm.
out other evidence or questioning things doesn't mean that I am just saying that there's nothing to some of these
Right,
theories. I'm
right.
just saying it may not explain
All of it.
100% of it,
Yeah.
or, we just don't, so many things are
Well,
unknown.
and people just want it's human nature to want things to be cut and dried. This or that. When you've talked about that, you've done a lot of videos about the dualistic thinking of good and bad, male and female, whatever. That it's like the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and then
Hmm.
you've got life or whatever. But
Yeah, it's like which is interesting because that's basically the filter most people
mhm,
see through
mhm.
is the tree of knowledge, good and evil, a very dichotomous binary
Yeah.
lens that everything is viewed
Well,
through, and
and
not everything is going to be that simple.
no, but I think that's kind of where we all start. And just having some compassion for if your mind just automatically jumps to its demons. Like I was taught that
Hmm.
that anything like reincarnation or any unexplained phenomena like that was just demons. I was taught that by a well-meaning church system
Sure.
that honestly believed it. And so I'm not wanting to pick on anybody whose position that is. We're just asking the question, maybe this is true and maybe some other things are also true. And if
Exactly.
truth is important to you, then it bears looking into.
Right. And I think you kind of hinted on it here. One of my questions here is, if aliens exist, are they material creatures or are they interdimensional of some kind? Which kind of brings us to the next thing. Are extraterrestrials, are they angels? If aliens exist, are they angels? And if um and what are angels? Because are angels terrestrial or are they extraterrestrial?
They're
the
both.
word extraterrestrial, we have these paradigms that have been reinforced with movies and stuff. ET, that when we say extraterrestrial, we think about little green men, uh, or the movie Alien or Predator or whatever, stuff like that. But it simply, alien is someone from another location, and when we're talking about extraterrestrials, we're talking about from other than the Earth as opposed to terrestrial. And
I've met
so,
some human beings that seem kind of alien.
me too. Well, fortunately, we
Extraterrestrials.
built that wall, and hopefully
No,
that's keeping a lot of money. I know.
I mean, people. I saw the lady, and I'm not being mean. I saw a lady walk into
I've
Walmart
seen
the other
some
day.
blue-haired freaks.
Well, and I digress a little bit, but I read a book. I've read
No
some new
offense
age.
to you blue hairs out there.
I've read some new age material over the years, and some of it's pretty far out. I'm just gathering information. I practice what I'm preaching here. I expose myself to other information just to as a so that I don't solidify down into my own thinking and just become blind to anything and unwilling to look at anything. But I read something one time that claimed that different souls from different galaxies, that they reincarnate or incarnate in different galaxies, and sometimes they're human and sometimes they go to some other galaxy with another dimension and they go through those cycles, whether you believe it, whether you don't. I read the book and it said that some people that have never been to Earth before, this is a little funny, incarnating, that they are not comfortable in a human body. And that stuck with me a little bit. Like, you can tell that there are just people, and it could be it's not necessarily because of that's not what I'm saying, but it's a thought process, it's a question mark that you say when you see someone. I did it the other day. She was going into Walmart and she didn't look like she knew how to be in a body, and she was like maybe 30s or 40s, and it wasn't just that she wasn't graceful, it looked like she didn't know how to. So sometimes you just have these question marks that I don't slam the gavel down and say absolutely that's absolute BS, but I also don't slam the gavel down and say, oh, it seems right to me, and you gobble it up.
Yeah,
You just
exactly.
hold space to
Sure.
say this is an interesting thought process. It makes you more aware. You don't have to be so open-minded your brains are falling out. You just have a little bit of space to say, here's a table, like if you have a model of a way to think about it, here's a table, and here is a potential thing that could be true, it could be false. I'm just going to sit it on the table like a salt shaker, like a cup. I don't have to sit there and have the meal. I can just gather these things here and just say, this is interesting. What do I make of it? Well, I'm not going to make a determination. But I'm going to let them be where they
Sure.
are.
Yeah, exactly.
There's no danger in
Exactly.
that, just letting them be.
Exactly. Now, a lot of people say that whatever these things are, it's just demons. So I'd like to talk about demons just for a second, which really should be its own program, its own video. But I would just say, even that, a lot is crammed into that
To the demon label.
to that label.
Yeah.
And the scripture, although it doesn't give us a system, a hierarchical system of this, it does highlight that there's different kinds. That it talks about a deaf and dumb spirit, or familiar spirits, or lying spirits, and other things like
or
that.
principalities, powers,
Right.
rulers of
Well,
darkness,
which
and
we would
spiritual
have to
wickedness.
say, do all demons have to have a body, or what we would call unclean spirits and that sort of thing? Well, most of them that we see in the pages of the New Testament appear to have that, because, like, even when we're talking about the Gadarene guy, Legion, that he this legion of unclean spirits here wanted to go into the herd of the swine, rather than have
which is weird,
no place to not rather than not have a body to be able
that's
to.
weird.
And the parable he told about the house being swept and all that, and so some of them do. However, there are creatures, I don't know that we could call them demonic necessarily, something of the dark realm.
Well, like the Prince of Persia and Daniel.
Yes, exactly. In Daniel chapter 10, that talks about the Prince of Persia and the Prince
and
of
Satan.
Yes.
Satan entered into him, so apparently Satan can.
And so, yes, there's a difference between
have to.
Angels, and now the book of Enoch that's quoted in the New Testament are referenced apparently a lot of times. The book of the little book of Jude, one of the main places, but number of other areas in the New
Mm-hmm.
Testament and possibly the Tanakh um, refer apparently to the book of Enoch, and it does appear that it had a strong influence in informing the paradigm
Mm-hmm.
of first century Jews, including various apostles that
Mm-hmm.
penned the New Testament. And so the book of Enoch says that the after the giants were killed in the flood of Noah, which is another whole thing to get into, Genesis 6, and the Banaha Elohim, the sons of God, coming down and intermarrying with human women and producing what's called Nephilim, which is translated giants. Well, supposedly when these giants or these titans died, that their spirits became the unclean spirits that roam the earth looking for some
That's
way
a
to express
that's a
itself.
thought process.
Yeah,
It
but it might not be all of them.
Well, right. Well, in Nephilim, a lot of times when you get people who even believe in the Nephilim, they refer to the Nephilim as the fallen, but the Nephilim are the offspring
Yes,
in that line of thinking,
exactly.
are the offspring of the fallen angels or that left their first estate who married with women.
Right.
So you've got all, and we're not trying to overcomplicate things,
No.
but the Bible tells you what it tells you, and
Right.
these distinctions are in the Bible. And so, rather than say, well, you're just trying to overcomplicate, well, if you want to deal with the truth of things and you are looking at the scriptures and using them as a basis, these distinctions exist in the scriptures. We're
Yes.
not inventing
Many
them.
of these pontificators that are propagating the Facebook and YouTube theology out there without really doing any serious research are um, they are not taking the time to parse these things, and they're conflating things that the Bible or science shows distinctions in. So they're just lumping everything into this big old it's demons or
Well,
whatever without any, or even if we're talking about angels, a number of types of let me use the word heavenly creature. Okay,
serving
heavenly
God,
creature,
that
some sort
serve
of
God.
sentient
Hmm.
being that is non-material
Hmm.
or non-human. In Jewish angelology, there are basically 10 classifications. And, the Bible talks about cherubim, seraphim, ophanim, the Banah,
Seraphim.
the Op,
Did you say that?
yeah,
I'm
I
sorry.
did. The Banaha Elohim or sons of God,
Hmm.
watchers,
Hmm.
different things. And in Christian angelology, many of them traditionally have believed there's 9 courses or uh, what's the word?
Classifications.
Yeah, of these creatures. So even that we're dealing with more than one type of species or classification of the angelic realm.
Well, and Daniel also said, Gabriel was talking to Daniel, and he said, "None holdeth with me in these things, save Michael your prince." And so, then you have not only classifications of what kind of angel they are or whatever, he calls him a prince. And so there are other governmental positions that they can hold. So it's not as cut and dried as a lot of people are trying to make it. Just if you want to say angels and demons, you can definitely say that, but just know that there are, all these distinctions within that label.
Yes.
Like you say, would say Baptist. Are all Baptists the same? No. There's lots of different kinds of Baptist. If you say Jewish, is that all the same? No, there's lots of different
Right.
kinds of
Yeah.
Jews that
Yeah.
believe it. There's
Yeah.
Sadducees and Pharisees. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
I know that's a older distinct class distinction,
Mm-hmm.
but there are ones now that believe a certain way, and Kabbalists and other people that don't believe in the mystical tradition. So, you can use the label, just understand that there's usually complexity underneath that label. And we're not trying to make things, there's a difference between complicated and complex. To me, complication is just making things hard for no reason or being overly pedantic, whereas complexity There are things, multiple areas under almost any topic that you raise. There are going to be multiple things to look at to really get at the truth of something. That's just the way God made it. God is not a simpleton,
Mm-hmm.
and his creation isn't overly simplistic. You can talk about the simplicity that is the gospel. I think when it refers to things like that, it's referring to the fact of where you are in the process of your development. When someone's in kindergarten,
Yeah.
you're not going to go into these deep complexities, but just because you don't go into them doesn't mean they don't exist. You just don't give them to the kindergartner at that point because they can't process all that.
Right.
But then as we grow and we mature and we go toward the truth and we really want to understand what's actually happening, taking in biblical information, taking in our own experience, taking in what the scientific data seems to be. If we want to be mature truth seekers who are trying to really ferret out what's going on here, you can't just take a couple of pieces of information or assumption. That's
Right.
the point.
Yeah. And so as we sort of begin to tie this thing up, I think that why do you think, Julie, that a if it is true, if it turns out to be true, or if we're ever able to corroborate it in some way, that government officials did brief evangelical leaders on talking to their flocks about this information that could potentially be, cause major paradigm shifts theologically for them,
Why do I
problematic.
why do I think that the government, if it's true, why do I think that they told these
Mm-hmm.
people that?
Yeah.
Well, I mean, people are going to not only, some people are going to panic. Um, I think that people who don't have, no offense, I don't mean to be offensive when I say this, believers who don't have roots in proper things are going to be overthrown. Like
Mm-hmm.
their belief system is just going to get overthrown because they're gonna somehow isolate on, well, if aliens exist, that disproves God or my belief system. No, it doesn't.
Well, and
Well,
right,
well, it can
constantly.
it can disprove your belief
Mm-hmm.
system, but your belief system is a separate entity from how God exists in
Exactly.
heaven.
What we're constantly talking about, how there's a difference between what happens and what you make it mean.
Yes, absolutely.
And so if we have some circumstance that unfolds in the future, if we have a UFO like on Independence Day or something,
I hope not.
um, that moves over the White House and
Drops a bomb or whatever.
or
Yeah.
creatures get out, or if we find out that government officials have met with them or have bodies or other things that have been alleged. We don't know, I don't know. We'll see if that, there's been a lot of people that
Yeah.
make these claims,
It's either true or it's
and
not.
we'll see if
Mm-hmm.
that turns out to be true or not. But if it does, if that disrupts your theology wasn't very solid. And so a lot of times I believe that there are probably a lot of people that if it turns out that there's indisputable proof that aliens, UFOs, all of this stuff is reality, then that means the Bible's not true and God's not real.
And God was treacherous to them.
Yeah.
And one has nothing to do with the other. I mean, if somebody did deceive you, if that's the case, I mean, it's going to be man that did that through assumptive belief systems, and it's also going to be, no offense, you deceiving yourself and not looking into the solid evidence, whatever of solid evidence exists out there, whatever, of looking into this and just believing what you were taught or believing what makes you comfortable. And I understand there's a whole lot of bull going on in this world right now. There's a whole
Mm,
lot of things.
sure.
And I don't know, in the Bible where it talks about in that day, men's hearts failing them for fear, I don't know if it's talking about this
Mm,
generation or our times or not,
mm,
but I guarantee you it's true of this one, even if it's not talking about this time,
mm,
because there's just a lot of things,
sure.
with COVID
Mm,
and with governments pulling shenanigans
right.
that we now know of, just different things. And it doesn't make, I'm tired of things like labels called conspiracy theorists and all that, because it's either true or it's not true. And people can choose to make fun of things or be against them. And sometimes they're against them because they believe that it's the truth, and sometimes they're against them because they don't want people to have the power of the truth. Both are true. And so if there are two things that we want to strengthen our relationship with the Most High God on truthful things, not just belief, not just shoring up belief systems and daubing the wall. Like it talks about in the Old Testament, the prophets would come and say, you're just white walling that wall. You're just daubing holes in it. You can like propping Dagon back up when he falls down. There's no point in continuing to daub the wall of our belief system when we see that areas of our belief system are crumbling.
Right.
Let it crumble so that
Yeah.
something more solid and more enduring that's based on the truth can take its place. And it's painful. It is painful. It's scary and it's painful, but it is working a greater strength and the kingdom of heaven in us.
Right. And likewise, yeah, I get tired of how, and take the time, if you haven't, do some research into the label conspiracy theorist and see who come up with that and when and why,
Yeah, it's
because
useful
it's
info.
interesting just to be able to shut down any kind of discussion or argument by this what's the word I'm looking for? It doesn't matter, but to ad hominem, to just shut down argument without really things being having an open, honest discussion. And likewise, on the flip side of that, we need many of the people that I see their content need to be responsible and not just be having these, rein yourself in and do some research, do a little prayer, and have some common sense before you start pushing these
Ideas.
conspiracy
Yeah.
theories that don't have any evidence or merit, that are completely illogical, that defy rationale.
Well,
Just because, I mean, it's just unbelievable.
and
It's irritating to
well, and
me.
Yeshua said, what's the sign of the end of the age and you're coming in? He said, take heed that no man deceive you.
Right.
Take heed to what? So there's obviously truth that is out there to take heed to. Yes, his words, but you also have to examine your interpretation of his words is not the same thing as his words.
Mm-hmm.
Like understanding that there is a gap between what you believe and what is actually true,
Yeah.
that there's a gap between your belief system and God as he actually exists.
Exactly.
Like in just understanding that I've said this before recently, and I do think it's true. I believe that a lot of people actually serve a belief system and they think they're serving God, but the belief system is actually their God. And they haven't really even made it to
Which
God.
is an idol.
Well, it is an idol, but I'm not trying to be judgmental when I say this. Everyone starts out that way where you have to have framework, that scaffolding that you put together to stand on as you reach for the divine. I mean, you do, God knows that, but the hero's journey of working out your own salvation is that you start to examine the scaffolding and you realize, hey, the scaffolding is not Yeshua, it's not Jesus, it's not God, it's not, the word that holds creation together. It's my belief system about all these things. And we need a belief system. We need a way to ritual, a system of rituals and beliefs, so we know how to conduct ourselves in our daily life or whatever. But, at the risk of, this is probably going to ruffle some feathers, to me, what's most important is that you have a relationship with the divine is more important than your scaffolding. And I'm not saying that the belief system isn't important, but it should never be allowed to take the place of relationship with the divine. And if you have a relationship with the living God, a consuming fire, then if you really do, you know that it's a relationship with the unknown.
Right.
Like there are a lot of things a lot of his attributes that are known, that he makes himself visible, how he is and who he is in the word. But if you look at the lives of the patriarchs, they had all kinds of BS happen.
Oh, yeah.
That, they could have said, well, I'm in covenant with you. Why did you let this person die, that person die, this thing get stolen, this thing happened, me lose my leg, or my,
Yeah.
Jacob didn't
Mhm.
lose his leg.
Yeah.
But he had a problem with his leg after wrestling with the angel.
Right.
You know, they didn't
Right.
just live pristine lives
Right.
with air conditioning all the time. Nothing bad ever happening.
Right. Well, we don't want to confuse anybody with this content today or anything. Um, and I don't want anybody to be afraid
Mm-mm.
or anything like that. But and we shouldn't have. There's a lot going on, so we're gonna have to try harder to cultivate our peace and to keep chaos and fear and those kinds of things at bay, but also at the same time staying flexible, and so that and just being careful about quickly planting a flag, slamming down the gavel, and being dogmatic about it's this or that or it can't happen at all,
Mm-hmm.
and just take some time and
Sure.
get your facts together and do a little research
And
before.
praying.
Yes.
Well, and I mean, the reason I'm laughing is I'm just thinking, you know, if you're walking down the road with your dog and somebody drives by in a Buick and they point a gun at you and start shooting, you're going to take off running or you're going to take cover. So if an alien craft lands in your front yard and they point something looks bad at towards you, you know, you might want to run. Like and I only say that you just have to get really practical, and it's paradoxical to say have a relationship with the divine that we can't quite see or know absolutely with being practical, but this is how we live. This is the spiritual
Yeah.
path
Yeah.
of doing what we can to have a relationship to a being that when it's all said and done, even with the scriptures, he can be pretty dang elusive.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
Because and I think there's different reasons, because he's a different being.
Mm-hmm.
He's not like us.
Not of the earth.
No, he's
Extraterrestrial.
not. Well, I
Yeah.
mean the ultimate
Yeah.
extraterrestrial.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
he's not us. He's not confined to operate the way we would try to make him operate. He is who he is. He will be what he will be.
Mm-hmm.
That's true. And it is a complication because it doesn't yield easily established facts about him that we can count on for bad things not to happen. But in addition to that being the case, we also are living practical everyday lives where we have to pay for our mortgage, go to work, feed the dogs, sleep,
Yeah.
you know.
Right.
And so we're trying to find a place that will hold both realities, because we are spiritual people in that we're walking a spiritual path, but that doesn't make you airy-fairy. That makes you be more practical with whatever is true.
Right. Be sure and hit the like and subscribe button and share the video with other people, because I think this conversation is going to happen, and so we might as
Yes.
well get
Right.
ready for it.
Yep.
And hopefully we've given you some other angles or perspectives to take into consideration when we're dealing with this subject. And probably, you know, maybe we'll do some more videos if more information comes out that
Yeah.
that warrants it. Maybe we'll do another one. But we appreciate you hanging with us, and we hope that it's been a stimulating discussion for you, and hope to see you guys real soon. Take care. God bless you.
See ya.
Theoretically, when exploring the nuances of the mysterious mystery, we must always remember to never forget,
Oh, you're doing
as
Kamala.
the great Kamala Harris once said,
Extreme weather is very extreme.
extreme weather can be very extreme, and it is not happening
What'd you
less
say?
than what it used.
Less than normal.
The frequency is I don't remember.
Just say it's happening more than usual. Okay. Meow. Our son Zachary the cat. Meow. Hello. Hey, if you like this video, please click like and subscribe to be notified whenever we release new content, and to help other people find us out there on the vast plains of YouTube land. If you have a question or a topic you'd like for us to do a video about, just leave it in the comments below. Thanks so much for watching. Later, y'all.